evaluate polynomial functions. Now, there's two ways to do that. Direct substitution and synthetic substitution. Okay? Direct substitution is when you directly substitute the value for x and find y. Okay? Synthetic substitution is when you use synthetic division. The remainder is your value for y. Remember, when we do synthetic division, if we are testing the solution x equals 5. Once we do all our synthetic division, our remainder is the y coordinate that goes with that x equals 5. So when x is 5, y is whatever the remainder is. Okay? And so we use that concept to evaluate that function, say at the point x equals whatever. Okay? Okay. So our first example is we have to evaluate this function. F of x equals 2x to the fourth minus 8x squared plus 5x minus 7. And we have to evaluate at the point x equals 3. Now, keep this straight in your mind. They're not telling us that x equals 3 is the solution. They're just wanting us to tell them what is y when x equals 3. Okay? So you could go way back to old school and just literally plug in 3 for x. 2 times 3 to the fourth power minus 8 times 3 squared plus 5 times 3 minus 7. And your answer would be what y is. Okay? But when you're doing that, some of these polynomial functions can get messy. Okay? So, again, direct substitution, we're going to use our calculator to do that. So, I want you to take that first function, and I want you to put it in as y1. Now, there's two ways you can use your calculator. You can go look at the table. When x is 3, what's y? Again, looking at the table will only work if they give you a whole number for x that you have to evaluate at. If they tell you evaluate 3.5, your table's not going to help you. Your table's not going to give you x values in decimal increments. Okay? So, the other thing you can do after you put it in your calculator. Okay, everybody has it in their calculator? Okay, just like we calculated the zero, calculate the zero is going to take you to the graph and find that x where it crosses the x-axis. Calculate value is going to allow you to put in any value you want for x, and then it's going to tell you what y is. So when you go second calculate, the number 1 says value. So when you hit that, it's going to first graph it, and we don't really care what the graph looks like. It's going to graph it, and then it's going to say x equals, and you enter in that value for x. So you enter in x equals 3. And when you hit enter, it tells you that when x is 3, y is 98. So when x equals 3, y is 98. Now, you need to get used to function notation. So they told you this function was f of x equals that, right? And then they wanted you to evaluate it at x equals 3. So that is like saying f of 3 equals what? 98, okay? This is function notation. So if they asked you what is f of 6, you're going to use that calculate value function and plug in 6 with the same function. So second calculate value, plug in 6 for x, and what do you get? 2,327. 2,327. So I can plug in any value using that calculate value feature, because you wouldn't want to, what if I said calculate f of 7,000? You surely wouldn't use the table for that. You'd be scrolling down forever. So calculate value is a valuable feature on your calculator. That was interesting. It may not be on that graph. So anyway, does everybody understand how to use that feature now? Okay. So let me show you what synthetic substitution is. Now, personally, I would usually always default to the calculator, but if you didn't, for some reason, you didn't have a calculator, you can do this simply by hand. And so if we want to find out what the y value is when x equals 3, we use synthetic division. And remember, our remainder is going to be our answer. So we put in our coefficients. What are they? 2, what? Wrong.
Plus 0.
0. Because there's no third term. I knew I'd get y'all. Then -8. Then 5. Then -7. Okay. So bring down the 2. Multiply. Combine. Multiply. Combine. Multiply. Combine. 35. Multiply. And when we combine, we get 98. That's our remainder. And that's also our answer. So you can use synthetic division if you don't have the calculator to evaluate any polynomial at a certain point. Everybody understand? Any questions? Yes.
So is the answer y equals 98 or is it f of 3 98?
Both of them are saying the same thing.
So it doesn't matter.
Nope, doesn't matter. I just want you to know that if they ask you, they could say, evaluate f of x, blah, 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 at x equals 3. So your answer is 98. But if they say, here's the polynomial function, find f of 3, that's asking you to do the same thing. Okay? Any other questions? I told y'all it was easy. Okay. Do this one. So they're wanting us to find f of 4. What'd y'all get?
Negative 1,260.
You should have gotten negative 1188. Okay, so if you didn't get that, you put something in your calculator wrong.
Oops.
Okay? Okay, so your homework is up here, page 333, 28 through 46 even, and these three are word problems similar to the ones that we did, okay? Except in these word problems, you're not going to be, say, solving for t, they're going to give you t, and so you have to evaluate that function at that point. Make sense?